It is quite a challenge making YouTube videos. This is a video about John Maynard Keynes' general theory of employment, interest, and money. He is often misread intentionally, and he's often misread unintentionally, but you need to keep in mind that he is echoing general theory of employment, interest, and money. He is echoing Einstein's general theory of relativity. And just as Einstein, to establish his general theory of relativity, had to step outside of the human realm, he had to start imagining himself like on the edge of black holes and stuff, right? So also Keynes is trying to step outside of the economic sphere as much as possible. So he's often misread as advocating for an extreme planned economy, and it's convenient to misread him if you have political agendas. And it's unfortunate because Keynes can help us in this election cycle. Let's ask ourselves, what determines the actual employment of available resources in this country? What determines the actual employment of available resources in this country? Chapter 1, Keynes talks about how everything he learned in college is wrong, and he summarizes everything that he learned in college in two statements, which he names classical postulate number 1 and classical postulate number 2. The book exists. You can read it. Some questions to ask yourself, though. Do you get paid what you contribute to the final product at your job? You know? Do you get paid what you contribute? Is what you get paid equivalent to your contribution at your job? Strange question. But when you put this old school thinking together, what you end up with is the idea that if someone is unemployed, they're unemployed because they want to be unemployed, or they're unemployed because of whatever. But the classical school that Keynes was educated under, and the classical theory that really does underlie much of the thinking in right-wing America, says that and if you're faced with the fact that you have people that are willing and able to work, but there aren't any jobs to do, then Fox News doesn't have anything to say about that. And so Fox News, when faced with the fact that often there are people who are willing and able to work and yet cannot find jobs because there are no jobs to be had, when faced with that fact, they'll engage in all sorts of chicanery. They'll go on the Joe Rogan show and try to convince millions of people that they're correct. Try to convince them that they're correct long enough to keep the stock price up before they can get out, right? So that's what Keynes is talking about. You got to think about what determines the actual employment, the available resources in an economic machine, and what's going on when you have a bunch of people who are willing and able to work and yet there are no jobs to do. That constitutes a problem, and that's a problem that Keynes wants to solve. That's a problem that the classical school cannot solve. What happens when you have people who are willing and able to work and yet there are no jobs for them to do? Fox News has no answer for that. The classical theory offers an answer. It's just that when you start running the logical implications of that answer through, and when you start comparing the answers that the classical theorists offer with reality, then it doesn't hold up. The classical theory breaks down, according to Keynes.